Nobody starts at the finish line. You have to start somewhere. In order for you to get to where you're going, to meet that destination, you can't think that you're going to get there instantly. Welcome to another episode of the Nothing to Something podcast, where I touch on different things, different topics, to talk about how you can go from a nothing place to a something place. And right now, we're touching on emotional acceptance. I'm not a professional, but I do give my personal experiences and things that has helped me to go from a nothing to a something place. So as we touch on emotional acceptance, understand that is not easy. I would be lying to you if I told you that was easy for me to go from a nothing to something place in emotional acceptance. Guess what? It's some points and some times where you're just not willing to accept the reality. And when you're not going to accept the reality, how can you really make adjustments to certain things in your life? So with emotional acceptance, just think for a second what acceptance means. It's realizing the facts. It's not saying, oh, well, this is how it is because. That's not what acceptance is. It's looking at the reality of something and saying, okay, this is the way it is. Not talking about why it's that way, but realizing that it is that way. So when it comes to emotional acceptance, we have to first step, the first thing that we have to do is take a look in the mirror. We have to take a look in the mirror. That's what I did to start the process of going from a nothing to a something place. I had to take a look in the mirror. And that look is not always something easy to do. It's not always what you want to do. And there are going to be times when you take a look in that mirror and you say, I don't want to believe this. But if you're going to get to the next level, if you're going to go to the next phase with you accepting your emotions, you're going to have to do that hard work and take a look in the mirror. So what do I mean by take a look in the mirror? Take a look in the mirror is something that I'm telling you that you need to do as in reflection. You have to look at the circumstances of your life, look at the things that are going on, and reflect on those things. You really have to do that. Now, there may be things that you don't like about it. There may be things that's going on that you just don't want to come to terms with, but that's okay. And you may not be able to change the circumstances, but you have to accept it in order for you to have emotional acceptance. Because see, the circumstances that happens to us in our lives is dictating why we feel that way. So when we accept that the circumstances either is in our control or not in our control, is going to be a very, very important part, a very important factor in us actually accepting what we have in control of. And what is that? Your emotions. You don't have control over necessarily the circumstances outside of you, but you do have control over your emotions. But the only way to really get control over these emotions is acceptance. People are not going to view things the way you view them. They're not going to do things the way you do them. They're not going to put the effort into things the way you put the effort into. They're not going to have the expectation that you have, that you put on things or people. You have to accept that. That's just the way it is. That way you can accept your emotional state and say, that is the way it is. And that's why I am the way I am. So I have to accept that I am how I am at this moment. That don't mean that you're going to always be there. That don't mean that you're going to always feel like that. You might be feeling down right now, but you might not be tomorrow. See, emotional acceptance is just acknowledging the reality. And sometimes the reality is not what we want it to be. It's not what we hoped it to be. We sometimes get stuck in the limbo of how we want it to be and how it actually is. And we get stuck in that midway area of sometimes I accept how it is, and sometimes I look at how I want it to be. And then we mesh the two together. But something that I have learned to get to emotional acceptance is I had to really look at things and say, I have no control over things except me. I had to accept that. So if you learn to accept that you have no control over things outside of you, that's why people say, well, worry about what's in your control. Learn to keep your power. You have to learn to keep your power. You can't give your power to anything or anybody else. When you say, this is what I'm going to do, you start to keep your power. So with keeping your power, that's a part of emotional acceptance. So continuing to do that, to get to that nothing to something place. That's one of the things that I did myself. I had various circumstances where I just didn't want to accept the reality of what it was. And if you don't accept the reality of what it is, how can you properly address your emotions? Because if you're not going to accept what the reality is of your circumstances, your emotions may be up, they may be down, they may be at the middle. But how can you really address them and take hold and deal with it the proper way if you're not willing to do that? You can't. It's not possible. You're going to be up and down. You're going to waver. That's going to happen if you don't accept your emotions for how they are. Good, bad, indifferent. That's just how it is. And sometimes accepting that how you feel may not be what you want it to be. That's just accepting it so you can deal with your emotions and deal with it the proper way. That's the only way that you actually can do it. So what's something else that I actually did to start the process of going from a nothing to a something place? Something else that I did was taking the time for myself. Number 2 thing I did was take the time for myself. I started to actually look at the things that I like to do, look at the things that I didn't like to do. I made time for me. See, it's so easy to not accept your emotions when you don't make time for yourself. When you make time for everything and everybody else, but you don't make time for yourself. You have to have that upkeep of your own being in order for you to accept your emotions. So making time for yourself will give you that space and opportunity for you to figure out how you feel, for you to accept how you feel, good, bad, indifferent. That's what I had to do. Is it easy? No. With doing all the mundane things of our life, whether you have kids, whether you have a spouse, you have ailing parents, you have friends that need your attention, you have activities that need your time and attention, you still have to make time for yourself so you can reevaluate, reassess, digress, and use that space to actually get your thoughts in order. That's what you have to do. And again, you make time for everything else. You make time for everybody else. You pencil that stuff in. But do you pencil in making time for yourself? And I'm not just talking making time for yourself, binge watching a TV show or playing a video game. There's nothing wrong with those things. Those things is a measure of leisure, right? But making time for yourself, I mean actually taking time out to clear your mental space. So you don't always feel so overwhelmed. So you don't feel bogged down by all the decisions that you have to make, or all the things that you have to take care of, or all the people that you have to take care of. It's just taking that time out to say, I'm just existing. You have to take that time out to just appreciate your existence. I'm alive. I'm breathing. I have to appreciate those things. Now, you may or may not have some type of condition or health concern. But if you do, you still have to take that time out because you're not dead. And life is a beautiful thing. And yes, you may be going through something physical that's really difficult, that's really hard. But if you take the time out and just clear your mental space and look for something to appreciate, which is life, look at something that you value, that is going to help you to getting from a nothing place to a something place with your emotional appreciation, because it will give you a space to not just be worried about what you're going through. See, sometimes you can't approach your emotions the right way because you don't have time to look at them, because you only are focused on this and this and that, but you're not taking time out to focus on something positive within yourself. And sometimes you have to speak it, hear it, believe it. I know I'm good. I know I'm great. I'm positive. I'm thankful for this. I'm thankful for that. I know that my circumstances are like this, but this is something positive happening in my life. Or if things are not going the way that I want them to go, I know that that's how it is right now. That doesn't mean that's how it's going to be indefinitely. I had to tell one of my friends, don't say that you're broken. Say that something just needs fixing. See, broken is indefinite, but something that's getting fixing, that means it can be repaired. It's salvageable. And when it's your emotions, having emotional appreciation and approaching your emotions in a way of, I need to accept my emotions for how they are, that is something that can be salvaged and fixed. So you have to continue to take those steps. Now, what's something else that I did? One of the third things that I actually had to do, I had to have a good time. Sometimes you have to have a good time. You know, whether it's laughing at something funny, whether it's looking at something funny, whether it's doing things that you feel as though that helps you to have a good time, it's something that helps you appreciate and value life. Something that makes you appreciate who you are. It makes you you. So doing things to have a good time. And obviously, you cannot do things to have a good time. To have a good time that's going to put you in danger or put others in danger. You don't want to do that. That is actually counterproductive to what you're trying to achieve, what you're trying to do. So you have to have a good time and do things that's going to be positive, upbuilding, or encouraging, and something that's not going to endanger your life or endanger the well-being of others. Or it shouldn't be you did something that made you feel good, but it did something that made somebody else feel bad or horrible. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to bring in positive so you can release positive. That's something that I had to start doing. I had to start making time to enjoy myself. Actually saying, all right, you know what? I'm going to go bowling, or I'm going to go play basketball. And sometimes it could be a hobby. It could be writing music. It could be playing music. It's doing something physical so you can actually enjoy and have a good time. And even if it's just watching a movie that's funny, it doesn't make you think hard. It's just good, clean energy, something joyous. So even if it's not an activity that you physically do, you're actually engaging in something that's going to make you feel good. You have to engage in things that is going to make you feel good. That's positive, not on the negative side. So that's something else that I did to go from a nothing to a something place. And guess what? Even with going to a nothing to a something place, you may have a relapse, so to say, right? But long as you follow the steps and the guidelines, you can get back there. So you may not always be at the place that you want to be with your emotional appreciation, right? Or emotional acknowledgement or acceptance. So with your emotional acceptance, you have to do things that are going to make you think positive and feel good so you can acknowledge your emotions. If you're always down, how can you acknowledge that that's how you truly feel and it's not just circumstantial? That's why I'm saying you have to do something that's going to make you feel good, because it wasn't a circumstantial feeling. It wasn't a at the moment, because there are going to be times where at that moment you just not feeling it. But you have to speak it, hear it, and believe it. And once you do that and it's positive, you just get a sense of energy that you turn on within yourself. So when you turn it on or you turn it up, just like a stove, the flame is on, but you got to sometimes turn it up to get the water to boil a little higher. That's what you have to do. You have to turn up the positivity within yourself. It's not easy. You may not want to. Sometimes you just like, man, I want to be in my feelings. Man, I want to be mad. Turn up, like on that stove. Turn up the positivity within yourself. Remember, speak it, hear it, believe it. So what's something else that I had to do? One of the 4 steps that I had to actually take with my emotional approach. This one was very difficult. The 4th step, I say again, for myself, it was very difficult. I had to accept where I needed to improve, where I was doing, I had flaws. I had to accept where I had flaws at. Sometimes you got to accept where you got flaws at. That's not easy. That is very difficult. Accepting where you got flaws at, where you got to look at yourself and look at how others view you. Not saying that you got to care all the time about what people think about you, but you have to look at how others view you when it comes to how you treat them. Like, what is the things that you're doing to make other people feel a certain way? You have to just accept that, you know what, I just do some stuff that's not cool. I have to make some improvements within me in order for me to not do that to others. Because guess what? As the golden rule says, treat others how you want to be treated. Yes, treat others how you want to be treated. But sometimes, we get so caught up with getting things our way, getting what we want. We do so much damage to other people that we don't even realize. So we have to just accept that we are doing things to others. That is a difficult thing when we are justified, right? When we have reason. But justification doesn't make clarification. I'm going to say that again. Justification does not make clarification. Just because you justified by what you're doing, that don't mean that you should do it. It still was wrong. Listen to this. If you get punched in the face, right, by a bully. When I think we are kids, you get punched in the face by a bully, your eye hurt, and then you come to find out that this bully, he just went through a lot of stuff. You understand his circumstances, but your eye still hurt. So sometimes we just have to emotionally accept that we sometimes do things to others that hurts them. We have to accept that. And we have to take ownership in that. And we have to say sorry. And we have to really mean it. And sorry is not just a sorry of something that we're saying. We're saying sorry by changing our actions. And that's not easy. That's hard. That's difficult because you might have some things within yourself that you've been working on for years. And in the process of you changing behavior, you'll still be doing the very same things that you're trying to work on. So you may say, oh, I'm sorry for lying to you. But then in the midst of you working on lying, you might still tell a lie. So you got to accept, like, I'm still doing wrong while I'm trying to change. You might not be lying as much. That's progress. But you still got to accept that you're lying and you're hurting somebody from the things that you're doing. These are things that I had to learn. These are things that I'm learning right now and I'm implementing right now. And the only thing that I can say that you have to do that acknowledgement. You have to acknowledge that to the people that you love. You have to acknowledge that to strangers. Even sometimes you do something. It might be a stranger. Guess what? They might have did this, but that don't mean that you should have did that. So with acknowledging your emotions, acknowledging the things that you do will help you to acknowledge your emotions, for you to have that emotional acceptance. Just really accept that sometimes you're wrong. You have to do that. Again, I say that's a difficult one, right? But as they say, there's no bigger room in the house than a room for improvement. So we all can improve. We all have to make room for improvement if we're trying to get from one place to the next. If we're trying to go from a nothing place to a something place, we have to look for ways to improve. Don't just look at things and say, oh, look at what I'm good at. Look at what I'm doing. What you're good at is not in question. What you are doing in a good way, that's not in question. What's in question is the things you're not doing. So emotional acceptance is part of acknowledging where you're not doing something, what you need to do. So you can say, man, I'm emotionally tough. I'm emotionally strong. Oh, I'm emotionally stable. But you have to acknowledge and accept that I need to improve in something. That's a part of emotional acceptance. Now, these are some of the steps that I have taken in order to get from a nothing to a something place. And remember, while you're in that transition period, right? You may be going back, you may be doing something that you're trying to improve in, but keep on pushing, keep on trying. Don't give up, because if you give up, then that means that's where the failure is at. The failure is not in trying. The failure is in giving up. Don't give up. Keep trying. It's hard. It's not easy. But when you do the work, you realize that you're not cheating yourself. You helping yourself. So don't cheat yourself. Beat yourself is what I say. Don't cheat yourself. Beat yourself. Beat yourself at the things that you were lacking and where you need to improve in. Beat yourself in trying to go from a nothing place to a something place and doing better. Beat yourself and saying, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to keep moving forward. I'm going to keep trying. I'm going to keep trying until I get to where I'm trying to be. I'm going to acknowledge the things that I'm doing. I'm going to work hard at it. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Do you hear me? I'm going to do whatever it takes. Endurance. Don't cheat yourself. Beat yourself. Have endurance. If you don't have it, get it. Don't cheat yourself. Beat yourself. Remember, you are great. I always say, go be great. So, as I always do on every episode, I have Vic's random moments, my stories. So on today's story, in my random moment, what happened to me was I'm sitting at my door. I'm outside my door. And one day I'm looking at the door and I'm just sitting on the step and I look over and I see this squirrel, right? And I know you thinking, oh, squirrel, what's the big deal about that, right? Now, I see this squirrel and the squirrel start making cat noises. I'm like, wait, what is going on? Am I tripping? I know that is not no cat. And it looked at me. And I mean, it's up on the stoop and it's just looking. I'm like, that ain't normal. I know cats ain't supposed to be making cat noises. I mean, I know squirrels ain't supposed to be making cat noises. And that joint, like, it kind of came over towards me. I was like, whoa, I'm about to go in the crib. Because if this joint making cat noises, it's something wrong. It might got rabies or something. I don't want nothing to do with that. I went back in the house and I closed my door. And then I go to the window. And the joint is, I'm talking, it's up at the window. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. I gotta get this joint out of here. I go upstairs, I get a bucket of water, I throw it on the squirrel from upstairs because I'm like, I don't want this joint like coming to attack into the house. I was like, nah. So when I threw the water on it, it got out of here. I was like, yo, that whole situation was crazy. Now I'm gonna actually say another random moment that I had because it's pertaining to animal. I remember I was at my mother's house. Now my mom got the skylight in the bathroom and I'm using the bathroom. There's nobody there. Now it's late. I just stopped past at the house because I had to use the bathroom. And I'm using the bathroom. Now her skylight is open. The vent is open. You know, it's got the chain on there. The vent is open. And as I'm in the bathroom, I hear, "Rrr." I'm like, wait, what is that? "Rrr." Now, in my crazy mind, I'm like, man, somebody's dog is very loud that I can hear their dog through the skylight, right? "Rrr." I look up and I'm talking, this raccoon is like halfway down the skylight because the window was open. The joint was halfway down and growling at me like, "Arr, arr." I'm talking, and I booked out of there. I was gone. I closed the bathroom door. I'm holding the door because I'm like, wait, raccoons can open doors. Ain't about to open the door and attack me. I'm holding the door. I'm like, yo, I gotta pull my phone out. I'm digging in my pocket. I need to call the people that come and get wild animals, the wildlife people. I'm like, yo, this is crazy. And some said, just peek in and see if the thing came in, because it was, like I said, it was halfway down. So it was like it could have jumped in or it could have easily pulled itself back up. So I just like peeked in a little bit and I didn't see nothing. And I didn't see nothing in the tub. And then I guess when I booked out and it ran, it didn't jump in. I was like, all right, I don't have to call them. Find out a couple days later on the news, there was an abandoned house where it was an infestation of raccoons. I'm talking, it said infestation in the article. I said, wow, that's why it was up on the roof growling in, and it might have had rabies, whatever. I don't know. But I'm like, that's another encounter that I done had with an animal that is just doing something. Because, I know raccoons, they will attack if you attack them. But normally they'll just leave. But for the fact that it was growling at me, like it was in a way of trying to attack me, I was like, it could have had rabies. I don't know. So that was actually 2 of my random Vic moments. But remember,
you're in control of how you feel. You're in control. You are the determining factor of your feelings. No one else can control how you feel. Remember, you're in control how you feel. So control your feelings.